Thank you. And during my presentation, you'll be seeing a few pictures of my community during the 2019 flood and the March 24th of this year tornado. And to better provide everyone with context for my comments on these three papers, I think it's important that you first understand my bank and some of the issues we have faced. We're the only bank in a very rural two-county area in the Mississippi Delta with a population of less than 5,000 people. And we're only in these two counties. Both counties are classified persistent poverty, and two of the poorest counties, not only in Mississippi, but in the entire nation. Sharkey County has over 35% of our population in poverty, while Issaquena County has 44%. Over 41% of our community we serve has an annual income of less than $25,000. One of the small towns we have a branch in has a median income of $11,600 with a poverty rate of 75%. The Mississippi River flood of 1927, and I did not witness this, was the most destructive in the history of the United States, with 27,000 acres underwater. 27,000 square miles inundated with up to 30 feet of flood water. Anguilla, the Bank of Anguilla, and the entire two-county area we serve was underwater for months. On Sunday, February 21st, 1971, the South experienced a tremendous outbreak of tornadoes. This system produced at least 19 tornadoes and wrecked entire communities in Mississippi. The strongest tornado was an F5 that developed in Louisiana and crossed into Mississippi, killing 47 people, while the deadliest was an F4 that tracked across Mississippi, causing 58 fatalities. Another deadly F4 caused 3 more fatalities in Mississippi. 2 of these wreaked havoc on my community. I still remember that day vividly, even though I was 11 years old. We raced a tornado in my car trying to get home before it hit. The 1973 flood brought long-term floodwaters to our entire community, as did the 2011 flood. Both of these floods were long-lived. In 2011, our bank moved all of its records to a location 50 miles away, and I moved most of the furniture from my home to another location. Hurricane Katrina caused widespread damage in 2005. The bank, my home, and most businesses were without power for a week or more with widespread wind damage. In 2019, which were the pictures you just saw, our community endured a 6-month backwater flood that inundated over 550,000 acres. Many homes were lost, and the majority of our crop loan customers were not able to plant a crop that year. Bank employees spent many hours feeding workers and filling sandbags and putting sandbags around homes and businesses. I encourage you to look at our 4-minute flood video on our website, www.bankvanguilla.com. But the damage to the local economy from that flood, to the farmers, to the farmland, to the local infrastructure, to the wildlife was tremendous. Yet none of this compares to the tornado that hit our community on March 24th of this year. On Friday morning, March 24th, I received the weather statement on my phone that y'all saw a picture of, that we were under a high risk of severe weather that afternoon. That's my marketing officer's house. Late in the afternoon, between 4 and 5, I went to our local gift shop, my lawyer's office, and a Mexican restaurant, none of which would be left standing in about 3 hours. Around 8:00 p.m., the TV said Sharkey County was under tornado warning, and then the announcer said, "Oh my God, there's debris. If you live in Rolling Fork, you have less than 2 minutes to seek shelter. You're about to take a direct hit." I put my wife in our bathtub, along my 70-pound dog. I ran around and opened doors around the house to help equalize the pressure. When I opened the front door, the tornado was to my right, a couple hundred yards away, and it was illuminated by constant lightning flashes, and it was huge and it was roaring. I ran and got in the tub, covered us all up with pillows, and grabbed my dog by the collar. The house shook, the winds roared, things were flying around and hitting our house, and then all got quiet, and then the rain started. We emerged, of course there was no power, to find our fence down and trees and power lines down all across our yard, driveway, and street. Amazingly, our house was relatively okay. And that picture's on my street right there, just a few houses down from me. Then the calls and texts started, beginning just 4 houses down from me. That's my street. But beginning just 4 houses down from me, everything on both sides of the street was pretty much destroyed. That whole evening was a nightmare. My wife and I went all over town, climbing over trees and down power poles and wires, across destroyed homes, searching for friends and employees. When I heard downtown was destroyed and most of the businesses in town and most of them on the highway destroyed, I made the trek downtown on foot to check on the bank, stopping by my friends' residences that were also destroyed. My best friend's house was destroyed, but amazingly, the dining room table was left intact with the china still on the table, untouched. Thankfully, the bank was still standing, the roof was gone, windows were broken, trees and poles were down all across the parking lot, but it was intact. Currently is the only building left operational in downtown. Most of the rest of downtown has now been bulldozed. After a long night of walking in the rain, witnessing the horrors of what used to be my town, comforting those who lost homes and lost businesses, I went home around 2 a.m. again with my neighbor to chainsaw our driveways and streets. We had no power for days and no water, internet, Wi-Fi, or TV for months. That night, the tornado in F4 at 197 miles per hour, just 3 miles an hour from an F5, destroyed most of the businesses in our town, the county seat. Our accountant's office, both law firms, our post office, town hall, mayor's office, police department, gift stores, flower shop, chiropractor's office, tower loan, both insurance offices, all restaurants, our visitor center, lumber company, Ace Hardware, South Delta Parts Store, gas stations, funeral home, veterinary clinics, both barbershops and hair salons, a physical therapy clinic, a furniture store, car washes, and all public facilities were all destroyed. Our hospital, nursing home, high school, and courthouse all suffered extensive damage and probably will never reopen. Our hospital is operating out of a civic center with steel with tents set up inside. Our high school has combined with the middle school and is operating out of crowded classrooms several miles away in another town. High school enrollment has dropped from around 800 to less than 400 because so many people are displaced. The high school will have to be rebuilt with aid from the Archie Manning football family. The football team has been able to play on another field on another town with brand new equipment. We had approximately 327 homes destroyed or damaged beyond repair that had to be bulldozed, with another 265 sustaining major damage. 8 of my 32 employees are still displaced, while another 8 had major damage. 2 of my employees were hurt. One of my bookkeepers was the only person to survive in the Family Dollar store, but spent weeks in the hospital with injuries. My mother-in-law's car flew about 100 yards in the air and landed on another building. We found it crushed a couple of weeks later, almost unrecognizable. We probably lost 700 vehicles or more in the tornado. We went months without drinking water and months without internet or Wi-Fi and weeks without electricity. My town is still a mess. Debris pickup just finished, taking over 5 months. My street, as is a huge portion of town, is mainly slabs of concrete. We've received good press, but local and national politics has held us back in some ways. Good Morning America has featured us several times, even months after the tornado. I could go on and on about the devastation. The bank, just a few days after the tornado, opened without power or water just outside the front door of the bank, serving its customers. The bank opened its doors, even without electricity or water, to the Red Cross, Samaritan's Purse, and other organizations to use our boardroom and even corners of the bank. We explained to these volunteers what a better place to reach these people than the local bank. Our lobby would be filled with these people seeking help from the organization. We'd give them bottled water and snacks. We were distributing gift cards immediately after the tornado to those who lost their homes. All employees helped in the towns for weeks when not working at the bank. Every single employee worked at the distribution center, giving out free supplies to victims. We made short-term, unsecured tornado loans with no closing fees at Prime to help. We have distributed over $1,300,000 in federal home loan small business grants to over 70 small businesses that were destroyed in the tornado. We've contributed money to individuals and businesses in the area. The Bank of Anguilla and its employees have been very active in fundraising in the community. The bank is still bringing in food trucks about 3 or 4 times a week as our restaurants were destroyed. We're helping families and we're helping small businesses. We have paid for food, we have paid for motel rooms for various displaced families who have nowhere to go and nobody to turn to. We're heavily involved in recovery efforts. I've stressed in several talks since the tornado that a community bank has to have not only a bank disaster plan for events such as this, but also a community disaster plan. We are essential to the community. In each of these events I talked about, we lost population. During the floods, some people packed up and never came back. We have the danger of losing probably 50% of our population in Rolling Fork, my town, from this tornado. Over 60% of the population was renters, and they have no place to come back to. FEMA and none of the long-term recovery agencies will help a renter. 7 of us formed a 501c3 to help these renters move back into town and become homeowners. The 7 include 2 directors from the bank, including myself, and 1 spouse of a director. We're at the forefront of trying to help these renters move back and become homeowners. I'd encourage you in your free time to ask me more about this. We're receiving national attention with this program of bringing people and converting people who have never owned a home into homeowners. In almost every one of these disasters, the bank has gained deposits. Some of this is insurance money, while some of it is government assistance. Our public deposits have increased over 45% from the tornado as government assistance has come into our town to help with its infrastructure. Total deposits of the bank have risen from $151 million to $177 million, all disaster related. Public funds and home insurance proceeds are the driving force for this. Mortgage loans have dropped as insurance proceeds were applied to these destroyed homes. We've seen people decide not to rebuild and to move elsewhere. Some of this is due to the depressed economic conditions of the area and desire to move to a better economically situated place that is not so rural and is close to a Walmart or a clothing store or a movie theater. Another reason is due to the lack of jobs, with most of our businesses destroyed. Another big reason is the post-traumatic stress disorder, and they just cannot move back due to the stress and the memories. This is well documented for tornado victims. We're just now seeing an uptick in personal loan delinquencies, mainly in those living in poverty. Many of these are small loans secured by older automobiles which were destroyed in the tornado. In support of the presentation on natural disasters, local community banks do have a greater incentive to lend following a natural disaster. While our redevelopment is moving more slowly than I anticipated and I hoped, it is not due to the lack of a local bank. Other factors, such as contractors having to come an hour to 2 hours to our town with the extreme temperatures reaching up to 120 degrees heat index for the last several months, has caused our construction to be slow. They just can't work in that afternoon heat. A reduction in borrowed capital definitely makes the lending for us more risky. We have not witnessed yet the small reduction in lending, but that could change. This could be because we're the only bank in town, so we're doing all of the lending. Also, we probably lost 700 vehicles or more during the tornado, so we're replacing a lot of those. Our area has not had any wildfires, thankfully, but we do have farmers burn their field after harvest, which pollutes the air for days. We also have crop dusters spraying the fields, and the chemicals drift over our town at times. Wildfires have definitely increased worldwide, and without doing the analysis myself, I would agree with the results of the wildfire presentation. I believe credit card spending increases as personal items are replaced and travel and lodgings for those who have been displaced. In addition, as jobs are lost from the disaster or time is spent away from work rebuilding their lives, I believe that delinquencies would increase. Personal funds are being spent on necessities. I'd be interested in seeing what the effects of the burn down and the chemical applications are on the physical and financial health of my community. Our area has never witnessed a long-term drought. Again, thankfully, we see enough disaster. However, we did face a 2-month drought from July through September of this year, which has hurt our area crops, mainly the soybean yields. This supports the Farm Bureau findings. We do have a high demand for agricultural loans when farm income decreases, as well as the reverse. Farmers will use their own funds to fund crop production in good times. Ag loans are definitely risky and require collateral. As those that could irrigate this year watered their crops, they spent more money on diesel to run these pumps. As a result, we've had farmers come back to us this year, just lately, for additional advances to finish out the crop. These loans take more scrutiny, and a local bank that has relationship lending is better to handle this. However, if there was an extended drought, we could definitely see a decrease in lending as farmers tighten their budgets. To conclude, no bank and no community can ever be fully prepared for a disaster. Climate change is bringing on more and more challenges to both. Whatever the disaster, a bank will have to react and will witness changes in its model, its strategies, and its outcomes to weather the event. Bank of Anguilla is no exception and has dedicated itself not only over the last few months, but for the last few years and even further. I've been at the bank 41 years, and all the time I've been there, we've faced many of these natural disasters. But just lately, we're helping the city of Rolling Fork, my hometown, to cope with the effects of the tornado that ripped our town apart. And we believe we've made a difference. Community banks are needed. Community banks are just more than regulations. We're more than just technology, more than just loans and deposits and balance sheets. We're the lifeblood of these small towns. We have a heart and we have a soul. We see the people as friends and as family. We see the families behind each and every single loan that we make. We're there to help, whether it's through a tornado, through a hurricane, a drought, a fire, or even to just put food on the table. Community banks are needed. Thank you.